guys, and welcome back to Dawn of Man, episode number 14. Guys, today we're talking about a super exciting topic, one that rarely gets talked about, especially when it comes to futurism, and that is the future of the criminal justice system. You see, we're talking about all these developments, all these changes from AR to VR to maybe like living in a post-state world, perhaps, even living in a world where there's no more banks, but much rather we all have our own biological wallets and so on. So with all these accelerating modes of transportation, whether it's, high-speed trains or supersonic jets or even space travel, how to make sure that we hold each other accountable? Meaning if somebody breaks the law, how do we hold them accountable before they're essentially gone all across the globe? Or alternatively, this, you might say, hey, this can already happen now, but now we still have centralized governments with like a lot of these different rules. But if we remove borders, how do we still ensure that safety? How do we ensure that everybody is following the rules? Now, the future of criminal justice system, I think, is very exciting for multiple reasons, because I think the way we're moving towards the future with AI is removing inefficiencies. And I think one of the biggest inefficiencies that we currently have is the criminal justice system, because when we look at the criminal justice system, there you have really three parties, right? You have the judge, the jury, and the executioner. Executioner being, the people that enforce, whether it's police officers, essentially the people that get people in front of the judge and the jury. So then the question becomes, there's a lot of subjectivity when it comes to all three of these parties. So for example, and let's look at how this is objective and how we can improve it. You see, when we talk about, let's say you're on trial, generally it's not that the better case wins, but that the better lawyer wins, right? Because the better lawyer maybe is better connected to the judge, or perhaps, they're able to communicate it better. At the end of the day, if you've ever studied law, you know that, there's a lot of gray zones when it comes to law. It's up to a lot of interpretation. And at the end of the day, if you have a better team, you can win, even if the facts might not be 100% on your side. As long as it's slightly tilted in the middle, you could sway the vote. Because here's the problem when it comes to the legal justice system. We have the three parties, right? So the first party is the judge. The judge's main job in the criminal justice system really is not to decide, but much rather, to guide the procedure, right? So when people make objections and whatnot, the judge will grant certain motions and they will deny certain motions and so on. Now, if the judge doesn't like a certain party, if the judge doesn't like a certain attorney, or just is having a bad day, all of that can affect their decision making. Why not have an AI replace his judge? Because look, every judge is a person. And every person comes with their own flaws, they come with their own prejudices, they come with their own baggage, essentially, that they're bringing into the courtroom. If they have a bad day, that will definitely affect it. If they don't like a person, it will definitely affect it. The AI, on the other hand, can simply know the rules of procedure and enforce them. And they will always be nonpartisan, and they will always be honest, and they will always be fair. So first of all, step one, replace, let's say, the judges by AI. Now, step two would be you get the jury. Now, the jury is just as big of a problem as everything else, because with the jury, there's no other reason why lawyers and teams fight so hard about picking the right jury than the fact that it's subjective. So, because when you do your research on the jury and you find out that maybe one juror is coming from a similar area as the defendant, or maybe on the other hand, you have a juror that has some obvious prejudices against the demographic or the ethnicity of the defendant, then you already know that there's so much subjectivity going into the decision process of the legal justice system, where you might be asking, look, if you can already tell when picking the jury which side is going to win, why are we even having this trial in the first place? So there's so much subjectivity where why not replace that, for example, with an AI that can simply look at all the facts, that can look at all the laws, and fairly decide, which side is truly like on the tipping scale, which side is winning, because when we talk about you have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that a person's guilty. Well, then if there's some level of reasonable doubt, meaning if the scales are slightly tipped into doubt, then the AI would rule not guilty. So when we can take it towards where the AI would properly and fairly guide the process as a judge, and maybe would also be the juror by evaluating the various different criteria, then we could already now make the whole system a lot more fair, a lot more straightforward, and take out all the subjectivity, take out all the human emotion, and make it what it's meant to be, a fair system that is based on laws, that is based on rules. And this is exactly how AIs or algorithms work. They work based on rules. You give them rules, and they will be, since they're machines, they're the best at deciding, does it fit a rule or not. You remove the whole element of humanity that we have that really makes us really weak at deciding of whether or not something violates the law. Because maybe something violates the law, but we say, but he's so young, or maybe we always find ways of screwing things up. There's many cases where, for example, maybe some young white youth decided to rape a girl in college, and then he's got his whole life ahead of himself. Why don't we let him off? And then there's other times where maybe some older person does the same thing, and they say this is horrible, they're going to be in jail forever. So if the rule is you're going to prison, then you're going to prison. It doesn't matter if you're white, it doesn't matter if you're black, it doesn't matter if you're 18 years old, 70 years old. The law is the law. So the bottom line is that there's so much prejudice in the justice system. There's so much subjectivity in the justice system, and by automating it, we'd be able to take a lot of that away and truly make it fair and a plain playing field. Now, as I said, there's really three parties. The final part would be the executioner, so to say. And that applies to both finding criminals before as it happens, and also the punishment that comes towards them. So how could we automate that? Now think about this. We all already have our social security numbers, we all already pay tax and all that stuff. So would it be a far jump to say that for perhaps, we all also have maybe some biological tracker inside of us? We already talked about trackers in the last video when it came to, biology and finance. So what if we all have trackers inside ourselves, and if you commit a crime, the AI, or the robot police, so to say, is able to find you. It's able to track you down and contain you. What if, for example, you've been identified, to have committed a crime, that they're able to disarm you, disable you from a distance, that perhaps they can paralyze you temporarily, again, so they can click a button, you're paralyzed, you can't do anything, they get you to prison and they unparalyze you, and you get, so there's no accidental shootings of somebody while they're being detained. And at the same time, it's also allowing them to capture them before they do anything else. Just the way, you can, and this sounds horrible when you compare it to humans, but how people can start your car from a distance. When you call the number in your car, and they can start your car from a distance. It's pretty creepy, it's pretty scary. They can maybe even track your car. Well, what if the same thing applies to humans? Where you can disable and restart a human from a distance, same way as you can track them from a distance. And then the final part would be, and this is really the craziest part, so to say, what if instead of putting someone into prison, and truly when we put some people in prison, oftentimes we don't teach them something, but much rather we break them to whole new levels, where we have such incredibly high recidivism rates, where people, they go to prison once, and then within 6 months, within 12 months, they come right back to prison. Because really, instead of the system fixing them, the system broke them to a whole new level, where all, we say you're the average of the 5 people close to you. So if for 10 years, all you do is hang out with other criminals, guess what's going on in you? And more than that, it also makes it so much harder for, convicted felon, for example, to get back rehabilitated into society. Because, there is so much stigma, there is so much, that they missed in terms of skills, in terms of how the world develops. If they're gone for decades, 2 decades, the world was a different place 2 decades ago. 2 decades ago, we didn't, 2 decades ago, the internet barely was a thing. Now we talk about Bitcoin. So if you remove somebody from society for 2 decades, 3 decades, they're gonna have a really rough time, integrating back in. So, not just from their perspective of, making life easier for the convicts, but also, we waste so much taxpayer money on keeping people in prison. What if there was a better way to rehabilitate people? Because that's really the goal. You want to punish people and teach them a lesson. So what if, with the criminal justice system, if somebody is found guilty, that they're going to go through an experience? And we talked about experiences before in the video on virtual reality. What if you're going through a virtual reality experience where essentially the convict thinks, he forgets that he got convicted, that he forgets that he got caught. And in his mind, He keeps playing through. Everything went fine. And he goes down the same route that he's been going down. And perhaps, maybe he stole something, so maybe in his mind he keeps stealing more. He does bigger and bigger heists. Maybe he starts, robbing a bank. Maybe whatever it is. In his mind, he keeps going down the path that he's currently on. And then the virtual reality experience will start, really morphing it. It will start showing him all the negative stuff that can happen. Essentially, the experience, we can really warp time when we are in VR, when we dream and so on, because I guess time is it's a dimension of this reality. We can really play with it where it seems like time is passing faster than it really is. And what if that person then ages throughout that whole experience and sees, okay, well, maybe they lost a family member because of the crime. Maybe they were involved in a drug deal. This is why they're on trial. And then perhaps in the virtual reality experience, they keep becoming like this little drug lord, and then they see the whole family die because of a gang war. Perhaps, the guy falls in love with a girl, and the girl dies of an overdose. Or even worse, maybe they have a child, him and this girl have a child, and the child is doing drugs and dies of a drug overdose. So essentially the idea would be to show people via virtual reality, without them knowing that it's virtual reality, the whole path they're on and all the consequences that can come out of it. Make them feel the pain. Make them feel the pain of what could happen if they don't change now. If they don't change now, maybe they get involved in gang wars and they see loved ones die. Maybe they see loved ones, die of overdoses, the very thing that they're selling. So the idea is to teach the lesson. Let people live a whole lifetime's worth of the track they're on and realize that that's not the path they were meant to be on. That's not the path they want to be on. And then when the pain is the highest, when they really feel like they might be praying to God, it's like they wish they didn't have done it, they'll wake up and they will realize it was all just a dream, so to say. But the lesson oftentimes, especially when the pain is as real reality, that simulation, so to say, should be more powerful than any amount of years in prison. Because you might say now, well, it's just like watching a movie. You watch the movie and it's like, yeah, you feel like, oh, I shouldn't do that, or maybe I should do this. But then you wake up and it's all over and you just go back to how it used to be. But I think virtual reality will be at such a point where it's so much more impactful and so much more dramatic, where it will be so real that you feel the actual pain, where you won't be going back to it, because those memories will survive. And that might be traumatic, those memories might be wiped out over time, but the bottom line is that if somebody still sees their, I guess, non-born or unborn child die of drug overdose, or maybe sees their mother or father gunned down by gang members or something like that, they won't be going back to it. Show them show them their future reality, step one, and then step two, give them alternatives. Show them another way. Because look, our goal with the criminal justice system, at least in my eyes, isn't just to punish and to lock people away for 30 years. The goal is to make people proper members of society, to teach them a lesson, to put them back on the right path. Because everybody deserves to have the right path. Everybody deserves to have a second chance, but only if they learn their lesson. And I think if we combine the criminal justice system with virtual reality in that sense, we can create something truly powerful that will not only really save their lives, because truly when you can turn somebody who might have a long future as a criminal into a proper member of society that can happily live their lives, you're truly saving their lives, and you're also saving other people's lives, because more than likely, if you truly are able to fix them, they won't be like most convicted felons going back to committing more crimes with recidivism. So you're helping the criminals, you're helping society, and you're also helping the taxpayers, because we no longer will need the crazy amount of prison facilities that we have. The US has more prisoners than any country in the world. We might seem like, the very civilized Western country, but we have such insane, crazy prison rates, both in terms of how many people get convicted, how many people we have in prisons, and how many people go back to prison after they get out. So that needs to change. And both VR and AI maybe just that way to get us there. But then as always, this is Dawn of Man. So we have to ask the question, how far is too far? When does, this virtual reality experience become an even more messed up version of waterboarding? When does it become too scary when we let that AI, track us, when we let it disable us? What if that AI might at one point go rogue? We're always afraid of, what's taking over. And while we might essentially, hire the AI to, guard us, to police us, if things ever go the wrong way, if it ever gets its own mind, or if the wrong people start programming it, then we're in a really bad spot. So I think technology will be truly one of the most powerful pieces in reforming the criminal justice system, which we've already seen happen over the past years, from lie detector tests to DNA tests. The Innocence Project, a nonprofit I truly support and have supported in the past, where essentially past convicted felons, you do DNA tests back when DNA tests weren't available, and you find out, look, they were actually innocent, and they get free. So technology is a powerful piece in this landscape, and it will be the biggest change that is yet to come, I think, in the next 30 years. But we have to be very careful with who we give too much power, because the powers we discussed today are truly immense. It will allow you to be tracked by your government. It will allow your government to shut you off, more or less, and it will allow your government to essentially make you undergo any experience, make you undergo any trauma imaginable, which can be, I think, the most brutal torture instruments that the military might even yet have to use. So that must be kept in mind. So because you have to see, any technology is truly a tool, and any tool can be either used to, a knife, it can be used to cut food, it can be used, to, create things, or it can be used to kill people. So technology is only a tool. How we use it and how we let people use it is the true factor that we need to keep a close eye on. Either way, guys, I want to hear your thoughts. Do you think what I described tonight is, too much? Is it too much? Is it too crazy? Is it like, do we even want the government to have this much power? Or do you think really this is a crazy innovation that can truly change the system? So leave your thoughts below in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Take care.